Crock pot dinners are a busy mom's saving grace. Usually you think of a crock pot dinner as something for winter, but I think it's even better for summer because you can put it in the crock pot, go to the pool, and you can come back and dinner is completely done. Here are 3 super easy and delicious vegan dump and go crock pot meals. Today, we're gonna start with a delicious dump and go potato and chickpea tikka masala. All right, we'll start by adding a chopped onion to the bottom of that crock pot. Then we'll add about 3 or 4 chopped potatoes. These are just chopped yellow potatoes. Next is a chopped bell pepper. Any color works. I'm using orange just because no one likes to eat orange. So if we put it in the meal, then it will get eaten. And then a can of rinsed and drained chickpeas, a can of petite diced tomatoes with the liquid. Next, we'll add 2 cups of marinara sauce. So any of your favorite marinara sauce. Then we'll add 1 cup of frozen peas. You can add them now, or you can actually add them at the end if you want to use them to cool everything down. Sometimes I actually like frozen peas better at the end. And then now let's go to the spices. We'll add 1 tablespoon of garam masala, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of coriander, 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, and then about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, or a little bit less if you don't like it spicy. We want 3 cloves of garlic. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we'll mix all of this together. Perfect. Everything is nice and evenly distributed. And then we'll cook this on high for 4 to 5 hours. Now at the same time, you're gonna want to grab about 3/4 to a cup of cashews and let them soak in water. Just let them soak for the same amount of time that you're cooking, and then it'll be a lot easier to blend if you just do this step right now. So it's cooking for 4 hours on high, and then we have our bowl of cashews ready to go. I'm just quickly going to cook up some rice as well. Now we're ready to go. I'm off to take my twins to Six Flags today, and I'm really excited to come home to dinner ready. All right, it has been 4 hours and it is done cooking. It looks so good. Yum. Now let's drain the cashews and then we'll add them to our blender with some veggie bouillon paste. We'll add the cup of cashews that have been soaking for 4 hours, 1 cup water, and then 1 big heaping teaspoon of bouillon. We'll mix that in there. If you have a nut allergy, you can use coconut milk instead. You would not need the water, but you still want to add the bouillon. Look at that yummy cream. All right, let's stir it in. Now this looks good. And then you want to taste to see if you need to add more salt, because the cashews kind of dull the flavor a little bit, so just taste it and make sure. And then we will finish this off with the juice of a lemon. And then you can garnish with cilantro if you like cilantro. Next up, we have some vegan shredded chicken sandwiches. I used to love the simplicity of putting chicken in the crock pot, shredding it, and turning it into sandwiches. But it can totally be made vegan, and it's super delicious and easy. Let me show you how. I pre-chopped an onion in my favorite chopper. I'm first gonna add that to my crock pot, and I chopped it really small. Then we'll add 6 cloves of garlic. Just gonna be 3 teaspoons of minced garlic right here. Next, we'll add the chicken. So we're actually gonna use jackfruit for this. This is in brine from Trader Joe's, and make sure that you have drained out the brine. And I like jackfruit because it shreds just like chicken. So this will actually look like chicken. If you want, you can even start to just kind of shred it now, or you can wait until later. I'm gonna shred it now to make my job a little bit easier later on. Some people take out the eyes because they aren't the shredded part, but I'm just gonna leave them in, kind of mush them up a little bit more. The amount of meat that 1 can of jackfruit produces is similar to 1 chicken breast, like a large chicken breast. You can swap out a lot of shredded chicken recipes with jackfruit pretty easily. While this looks like chicken, it does not have the same amount of protein as chicken, and that's why I'm going to shred some super firm tofu to add to this to give it more protein. I'm literally taking tofu with my cheese grater and just grating it up. Now this only works with super firm tofu, so make sure that you pay attention to which type of tofu you're using. I'm gonna mix this up, and you have a good variety of textures. I think the shredded tofu on its own doesn't really have a chicken-y, meaty texture, but the jackfruit does. All right, now it's time to add in the spices. We'll add 2 teaspoons of seasoned salt. Again, remember tofu doesn't have a lot of flavor, so we need to add the flavor in. Then a half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano. I'm actually gonna use the ground version, which is a little bit stronger, but that's okay. So I'm gonna add a little less than a tablespoon. So 1 tablespoon dried oregano, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and then 1/3 cup of maple syrup. Now I'm gonna mix all of this around really well. Now what I love about the crock pot for this is, I mean, technically the only thing that really has to cook is the onions, but it allows it more time for the flavors to seep in, which is better than any other cooking method. We're gonna cook it on high for 4 hours, but it actually might take a little bit less than that. All right, 3 hours later, and here it is. It literally smells just like chicken. If I hadn't added the tofu, it really would look just like chicken, but I wanted the extra protein. And it's super yummy.
Yummy!
Now I'm gonna toast some bread. All right, this is done. We are ready for dinner. Perfect. I got these rolls from Trader Joe's. So the jackfruit's from Trader Joe's, the rolls from Trader Joe's. You can just make Trader Joe's your crock pot meal. All right, let's add our jackfruit tofu mix. It actually tastes so good. It's like the perfect mix of salty and sweet. Are you ready? Hey, have you signed up for our free 1-week meal guide? It's linked below and it has delicious vegan plant-based recipes for a solid week. And it even includes a shopping list. So if you haven't already grabbed it, make sure to grab it by clicking on the link below. And lastly, today we're gonna make a vegan chicken pot pie. Actually, it's just chickpea pot pie. We're gonna use our crock pot and make rolls instead of the actual pie. Don't worry, everyone will love it. Let me show you how. You'll first chop your veggies, and I absolutely love this veggie chopper I got on Amazon. It's linked below. It just makes chopping so much easier. Now it's time to just dump and go. So to your crock pot, you'll add a can of rinsed and dried chickpeas, 1 diced onion, about 1.5 cups of diced celery, and about 1.5 cups of diced carrots, 4 medium potatoes diced, about 1.5 cups of frozen peas, and you can always save these to the very end to cool things down, the very, very end right before you serve if you prefer. And about 1.5 cups of frozen corn. Now all we need is the spices. It's 1 teaspoon of everything to make it really easy. 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of oregano. I'm using ground oregano because that was easiest to grab, but any type of oregano works. 1 teaspoon salt, just for the added flavor today. I'm gonna use seasoned salt, but any type of salt works. So 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 1 teaspoon of black pepper. You can use a little less if you don't love black pepper. Now we'll finish it off with our veggie broth. Because I use veggie bouillon paste, I'm gonna take 2 teaspoons of this paste and add it to 2 cups of water. And then I'll kind of mix it up in here before I pour it in. It's just slightly more mixed up. And we'll add in our veggie broth, just 2 cups. Mix everything together a little bit more so we can get those spices in. And then we'll set it on high for 4 hours. Now we're not making a pie crust, instead we're making rolls. And the cool thing about rolls is you can actually let them rise for up to 4 hours. So it's a similar time frame. So let's go ahead and put the rolls together so they'll rise, and then when we're about ready to eat, we'll start to cook them. We're first gonna proof our yeast. So we'll add 2 cups of warm water to a large bowl or your mixer bowl. And then we need a little sugar, so we'll use 2 tablespoons of maple syrup and then 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. Just mix that up. And we want this to get bubbly over the next 5 minutes. So we'll just let it sit for 5 minutes. And then we wanna make sure that it is bubbly. If it's not bubbly, you're gonna have to start all over again and make sure that you have yeast that's working. So it's just proofing to make sure that this yeast works. We'll see, it's been a while since I've actually used this yeast, so could be a flop. We'll find out. 5 minutes on the clock. Look at that, it's getting bubbly, it's working. Awesome, and then moving on to the next step. We're gonna make our flax egg by honestly just dumping in 1 tablespoon of flax to this mixture, and then it will gel. Next, we'll add 1/2 cup of applesauce. We're using this as the sweetener and instead of oil. So usually rolls will have like butter, but we're using applesauce instead to make them nice and moist. We'll mix that together, and then we'll add 1 tablespoon of salt. So we have all that sweet. Now we need to balance it out with some salt so that they actually taste good. I don't know about you, but I've had rolls where there's just not enough flavor. We need the sweet and the salt, and then they'll be yummy. Lastly, we'll will add about 5.5 cups of flour. Now, I have this delicious, it's almost like a pastry whole wheat flour that works really well for breads. I got this bag at Costco, but your Costco may not have it. And so if your only whole wheat flour option you have available to you is that thick, really dense flour, then I would do half white flour, half whole wheat flour. Otherwise, I can use this pastry wheat flour and do the full 5 cups. I'll start with 5 and then I'll wait to see if I need that extra half a cup. And last one. Perfect. I'm gonna put this in my mixer with my dough attachment. And then let's mix everything together. Now I will not need that extra half a cup of flour. This is nice and dense, so we'll leave it here. Let me take it out. All I'm gonna do is take off my dough attachment and bring it together so it forms just one nice circle, and then let it sit. I'm gonna close this back up, and it's gonna sit for 4 hours right here with my crock pot. It may be closer to 3.5 hours because I do want to give it a little time to cook the bread before we eat dinner. Okay, it has been 2 hours, and so the crock pot's almost done, and we'll go ahead and make the rolls. You'll set your oven to 350. You'll grease a pan. Now I'm actually out of my spray, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put some olive oil and then take a paper towel to kind of grease the pan. And then we'll just take the dough out and form it into balls. It's like a dinner roll shape. It's gonna get a little bit bigger in the oven. Because this is made out of whole wheat flour, I like that it raises for 2 hours instead of just 1. I feel like we get a better rise. Okay, we'll bake these for 30 minutes. All right, this is looking good. We just wanna thicken and kind of whiten this sauce. So I'm gonna add some cornstarch and almond milk. You will add to the pan a half a cup of plant milk. Any type of plant milk works as long as it's unsweetened. And then a half a cup of veggie broth. And then we'll add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch or any type of thickener of your choice. I also want a little extra chicken seasoning. So I want to use Bell's seasoning. You can use any type of poultry or chicken seasoning here to just add in a little extra flavor. Make sure you whisk it in really well. And I'm gonna turn it on just to start to thicken. Now, this step is optional. If it's not boiling already in your crock pot, then you'll want to do this step where you're, thickening it here. Otherwise, you can honestly just add this straight to your crock pot, which I'm gonna do in just a second. You can also add salt or any extra flavor if you feel like your bouillon wasn't salty enough. So you can always taste it and add salt, but let's go ahead and put this in our crock pot. It'll make it nice and white and creamy. You can also do cashew cream here instead if you want it creamy. You could do coconut, cream of coconut. I just want to show you all the different options that we use instead of dairy-based creams. Oh, you can see this is immediately starting to thicken up. This looks perfect. This is the pot pie that we're used to having. It's nice and thick and gooey and perfect. As soon as it is thick like this, it is ready to go. So taste it, make sure you're happy with the flavor. You can add in more poultry seasoning, you can add in more salt. So we'll taste that. You can turn it off the high heat onto warm. Looks good. And the rolls are done. Also, if it looks kind of dull like this, wait till the end to put in your frozen peas and carrots, or add a couple more frozen peas and carrots like I'm about to do. It just really livens up the color, cools it down so it's not so hot. I'm gonna dip some of this roll into it. It's yummy. Those two are perfect because it's soupy, but it's not quite a soup. It's like a chicken pot pie. If you loved these crock pot dump and go recipes, I know you'll absolutely love my casserole dump and go recipes, as well as my instant pot dump and go recipes. So make sure to check those out as well.